I started using Fractal, I could be wrong about this, but I think it was around 2007 or 8. Yeah. So, and the thing about it was, I was doing already the tour that used to be called Zappa Plays Zappa, but then I had to change the name, so I just used my own name. But anyway, the thing is, my dad had so many different sounds that he did over the years in the studio, live on stage, and I had built a rig, an analog rig, that was able to recreate most of that stuff, but it was like 2 refrigerator-sized racks and 3 amps and a bunch of cabinets, and there were so many cables, and every time you go to a new city, something would break, and you fly it around. It was just so expensive. So I was struggling to be able to do what I wanted creatively to recreate these sounds. And I heard about the Fractal, and I got one, and I started playing with it, and this was the first iteration of it, the first Axe Effects. And right away, I could tell that it was going to be the kind of thing that could solve all the problems I was experiencing. But there were still things about it where I was trying to make it do stuff that I didn't really know how to make it do yet. And so I would go on the forum, as we all did back in the day, and you just ask people, like, who knows how to do this? And very few people used to know anything on there to like a really strong degree, except for Matt Picone. And so I struck up a friendship with Matt on the Fractal forum, and we just set up about like trying to break the thing, like what can it do, what can it not do, and we were constantly, working on little preset things, and then we had never met, but we were in touch all the time on the forum. Then we'd start talking on the phone about this stuff, and then eventually had the chance to meet with him, and he helped me build a lot of the stuff that I needed to do within the Fractal to recreate a lot of the sounds and make what I needed to do happen for the tour. And then it just turned out that I still always was having to go to Matt for the next level question.
The next level of how to break things.
Yeah, the next level of how to break it. So eventually it was suggested that Matt should work for Fractal, which became a great thing. And everybody who has a Fractal and has customer service has probably experienced some form of interaction with Matt Picone. And yes.
Yeah.
So that's been a great thing, and once again last night we sat down and said, how do we break it? And we did our best, and we found a couple of things we need to talk to Cliff about. But
it's flawless.
Yeah. The thing is, I tried to make it do some things that are probably not the typical request. So that's what I mean by break it, like take it into some new place. And Matt usually is a willing participant to go there. So today, actually, we're going to build a sound from the ground up, and we have another one that we're going to present afterwards that we made last night, which has some very secret properties to it that we won't divulge just yet. But I guess before we get started on making some sounds, one of the things that we're also going to do is how many of you know about Tim Miller as a guitar player? Anybody in the room?
Yeah.
So Tim is here, and Tim is going to join me, and we'll play a little bit together, and he may even play some of his own music too. But just wanted to give you a heads up because he's one of my favorite guitar players, and I think you guys will enjoy him as well.
Why don't we put that mic in the stand for you?
I'm going to keep it just like this, and I'm going to just go. Sure. All right, so like I was saying, one of the things that we thought might be fun is to build a sound from the ground up, and this is one of the things that when I got the Fractal, this was the first thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to make this sound, and at the time, there was no way to do it the way that we currently do it, there was always some kind of workaround for it, but now we found a pretty good way. So the sound that we're going to make is this sound that's called the Dyna Flanger sound. Anybody ever hear about the Dyna Flanger? All right, so the Dyna Flanger, have you ever heard my dad's record called Shut Up and Play Your Guitar? All right, the sound that's on that record is it's a doubled sound, but it's different than how people typically double something. So what this is a dynamic double that's created using an envelope following. Basically, you're taking a delay, and how hard you hit the string will change the delay time enough to change the pitch. But it's dynamic. So one side of the sound is unphased and is not being affected, and the other side is being modulated. So what you get is a really cool double that it's affected by how hard you attack the strings. So we're going to show you how this sounds because it's really cool, and it becomes even more interesting when you start using a wah pedal because it will change how much the delay will be affected. And anyway, it's one of my favorite sounds that my dad ever made. So it was hard to reconstruct from the ground up with stuff that he never used. You know, I knew what he actually used, and we kind of were able to figure out what we needed to do inside the Fractal to recreate these things. So it's definitely an involved process, and it's a stereo sound, so it doesn't necessarily sound that good in mono. So those of you who play mono may be disappointed, but this will be interesting. So
you direct and I'll drive.
all right, so the sound has, the way that I like to use it is, it's two different amps, two different speakers. So in this case, let's try, and we'll see if this will work. Like we'll do one that will be like a tweed amp that we can distort a certain way. And then the other will be some Marshall, like maybe we can do like the JTM or something.
Take your pick of tweeds.
Whichever one will sort of distort and almost sound broken.
Yeah, the deluxe tweed, I think.
All right, so basically what I always like to do with sounds anyway, if they're a stereo sound, is not make them sound the same. I almost want it to sound like two different guitars if I can. And so the basic amp sounds, we'll tweak that. We'll get it to where it sounds the way we want. But this sound also involves having a clean DI in it with the multi-band compressor.
Okay, so there's one deluxe. Let's do that.
I'm going to turn off the piezo pickup that I have in here. So what we want is to, what speaker is it?
It is right now. The deluxe tweed.
So
Let's listen to some others. You tell me what you want. I use a thumbtack.
I want some more, usually when these break up really heavily, there's more bass in it. And it may just be the speaker itself that we want.
I'm back. I had to load ready.
There's something that's just weird. It's like, let me just make sure that, yeah, the piezo's off, but I think it's probably just a mic that we're hearing getting back into the this speed here. So we want more gain from that amp. So, yeah. All right, so that's your different cab.
Okay.
And I would also lower the treble and presence.
Okay.
So let's just start there for the moment. All right, so let's leave that alone for the moment.
Great.
And then we'll go to the Marshall,
Okay.
like the JTM style, I guess. And we'll want to hear only that and turn the other amp on.
Okay.
And they're going to be hard left and right. So you hear like the clean, you hear the different textures of the distortion on each side. And it's really responsive to how you play the guitar, and it feels like it's alive. Now, the cool thing is when we add this other element of this modulated dynamic delay, you will really hear it change as I play certain notes. But when the wah pedal gets involved, then it really starts to go crazy. And the final thing we'll add to this too is a low octave that we can just blend in, maybe in parallel.
Cool.
But we'll just want a hint of it.
All right. So which side do you want the Dyna Flanger on? The deluxe or the...
Let's put it on the Marshall. So we'll definitely want the clean thing to be a little bit quieter, but. So this is going to be some crazy sound for a minute.
Delay algorithm in the Axe-Effects products, because when the delay
You want this
time
mic?
changes, I'll just talk loud. When the delay time changes, the pitch behaves differently than it does in a traditional digital delay. For example, on the tape delay, if you turn the feedback up and then adjust the time, and then adjust the time back, the pitch will go back to where it was. It doesn't pick up any pitch jitter or modulation because you turned the knob. It's like the motor speed, which is what one of the parameters is called in the tape delay. So by using that to simulate the Dyna Flanger, it's pretty close, basically identical to the way an analog delay would have worked at the time the Dyna Flanger was created. We're going to modulate its delay time instead of the motor speed because that gives more range. But that's the idea. So I'm going to assign the envelope follower to the delay time, and
it starts to sound like
away we go.
when you play a note, it's like taking an analog delay and turning the knob, and what the effect is the note will go sharp, then flat, then back to pitch. And it's random, depends on how hard you hit the note, and some frequency ranges are more excited by this than others. So some notes might barely make a sound where others will go seriously out of tune, but it's all in a cool way.
We're going to adjust the delay, and then also the envelope detector has its own settings that we'll fine tune for his guitar and even his playing.
the sound of almost two guitars playing at once. So let's turn the clean down a little bit more. So that's got the vibe that we're looking for a little bit of that. You hear it kind of go a little out of tune, but only one side is being affected in that way. It's like, in fact, let's hear just the Marshall. Let's do, there you hear it more. So you can make it more extreme, but I think the thing that we should do is add the wah in there because that will automatically make it more extreme at times. Give a little bit more to the threshold, like let it go more out of tune. Which wah is that one?
That's the Clyde.
Do you have the Vox one in there? Let's try the Vox one. We still want it to go a little bit more out of tune. All right, so that's better.
Cool.
It gives you the idea, right? You're hearing it do the weird little modulation stuff, right? Alright, so that's everything in, right? Oh, you don't have the multiband on, though.
Right, correct.
So, is if you put a really slow phaser on one side.
Okay.
So let's put it on the tweed side, maybe.
Okay.
No, we should try it with using the same technique that is for the auto doubler, thing where I mean you probably only have it on the through the null zero flange thing, but it still can sound like a phaser.
Let's hear just that.
Let's hear that with everything. That might be good. Does this ever go toe off and so we have no...
All the way back.
All the way back.
Okay, so how about you want it on both sides, one side, or?
I think I want it only on one side, but let's do it on the side that doesn't have the delay, doesn't have the Dyna Flanger. Let's see what that sounds like.
Got it.
Let me hear just that amp.
Okay.
So we would want a little less of it, because it sounded like we were maybe hearing it also on the. So I'm just trying to create different layers of it, you know. So. So when you would play certain notes. So that's a pretty good, place to start. We may even want to hear a little bit more gain on the maybe on the Marshall one. That's another thing that's interesting is when you have one side that has much more gain than the other, the notes bloom in different ways across the stereo field. And then with the direct, you have a really quick attack that. Yeah.